السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Kitab al-Rawd al-Murbi', and we're still in the chapter of Babu Izalat al-Najasa. And I would read what we already covered inshallah in Zad from only the matn of Zad. He says باب إزالة النجاسة يجزئ في غسل النجاسات كلها إذا كانت على الأرض غسلة واحدة تذهب بعين النجاسة، وعلى غيرها سبع. Here if you as we said before, when you read the Zad, the tashkil, the vowels can be different because it's not depending on the words after it. سبع إحداها بتراب في نجاسة كلب وخنزير، ويجزئ عن التراب أشنان ونحوه، وفي نجاسة غيرهما سبع بلا تراب. This is the end of what we discussed, and then we stopped here in page 171 in his statement in the bottom: ولا يطهر متنجس بشمس ولا ريح ولا دلك. So now, after mentioning the different ways of washing the najasa, so if it's on the earth or if it's on the ground, water is sufficient as long as it's removed. If it's not on the earth, if it's not on the ground and it's on the body or on the clothing or anything else, then if it's from the dog, saliva, or the pigs, then it's 7 times including a turab, dirt. أولهن بالتراب, as the hadith of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. And the khanzir is mentioned there with analogy. If it's other than the dog and the pig, and it's not on the earth, on the ground, then it's still 7 times. And this is the madhab, as we heard. And there's a riwayah from Imam Ahmad that it's 1 is sufficient. The numbers here is not there. The reason why, as it's mentioned in the sharh, why 7, even though the 7 is only mentioned about the dogs, is because of the athar of Ibn Umar. أمرنا بغسل الأنجاس 7. We have been commanded to wash the anjas. Anjas is the plural of najasa. 7 times. And as we see even here in the bottom, where there's an issue with authenticating this athar, because if this athar is authentic and he says umirna, we have been commanded, that means it's of course from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the other riwayah from Imam Ahmad, that is only as long as it's washed, because there's no authentic narration that proves that it's to be 7 if it's other than the dogs and the pigs or the khinzir. So we continue inshallah ta'ala by saying وَلَا يَطْهُرُ مُتَنَجِّسٌ بِشَمْسٍ وَلَا رِيحٍ وَلَا دَلْكٍ. Now, since we're talking about غسل أو إزالة النجاسة, how the najasa is to be removed, and there's a differences of opinions, or a matter that needs to be, you would find many rulings, depends on a principle here, as we talked about also some of these principles in tayammum and other places. And when you understand these qawa'id or these principles, then many masail refers to it. One of these masail here in izalat al-najasa is izalat al-najasa amr ta'abbudi. Is it a matter of ibadah, meaning that not ibadah necessarily is an act of worship, but this is a command that you have to remove it in a very specific way, or we have been commanded to remove the najasa. So if a place had najasa, if a piece of cloth had najasa, or your body or whatever, and if that najasa is removed, if you take a sample from it and you analyze it, there's no najasa anymore, is that sufficient, or it has to be removed in a certain way? Has to be washed, for example, or this is now the coming many different examples according to their times also, that you would see whether it purifies the place or not. And you would find many of these things, it would say that it does not get purified because it's not washed with water, right? So the other narration, which is also many of the scholars of contemporary scholars and Sheikh Santami and others, and other madhab, that as long as the najasa is removed, then the place is pure. Doesn't matter how it was removed. Clear? So I just wanted to mention that first. So now we go to these masail and we read what is there. And you would see the common thing here is that it does not get purified if it's not done with water. He says, وَلَا يَطْهُرُ مُتَنَجِّسٌ. So mutanajjis, something that got najasa. Because there's difference between mutanajjis and najis in itself. So if something that is najis in itself, like the dog saliva, right? It's najis at all times. It's in original state, it's najis. But mutanajjis, that means it was pure and something happened onto it. Something came onto it and made it impure. So that case, your one's body, one's clothing, the spot that a person prays on, now it's mutanajjis. So he says here the cases where لا يطهر, it's not going to be purified, ولو أرضا, even if it's earth. Why did he say أرضا here in the sharh? Because as we heard before, there's differences in the way that we purify the ard. The ard is the earth, right? The ground, versus everything else. So the ard is one time is sufficient as long as it's removed. So even if it's the ground, لا يطهر متنجس, any surface that is mutanajjis, that is becomes najis, impure, بشمس, with sun, ولا ريح, even ريح, wind, ولا دلك. A dalk is rubbing two surfaces together, right? So that would not make it pure. So something that is left under the sun for many, many days, and you come back after a few days, it was najis. After you come back for a few days and the najasa is not there anymore. What happened? The effect of the sun, the effect of the rih, the wind. You made dalk to the piece of cloth over and over again till it's removed. So he says لا يطهر. That is not sufficient for it to be purified. He says ولو أسفل خف أو حذاء أو ذيل امرأة, even if it's أسفل خف, if it's the bottom of the khuf or حذاء, whether it's a slipper or shoes, it doesn't matter. The bottom of it still does not get purified by dalk, by rubbing it on the ground. أو ذيل امرأة. الذيل is the end, is the tip, is the tail of everything. So ذيل امرأة, the last part of the abaya that drags on the ground, right? All of that, he says, even that does not get purified with the earth. ولا صقيل بمسح, and no saqil. A saqil is the surface. There is amlas, like a mirror, for example. Amlas meaning that it's is soft, is not, something that is like the mirror, like the knife, like the sword, these types of things, where surface, the kitchen top, something that once you with a piece of cloth, you wipe something from it, that's it. It's very easy and simple to remove. Does not have any grooves, and it's not difficult to purify. So this is the saqil. It's like a rock, soft rock, and something like this. So all of that, even the saqil b'masih, wala saqilun b'masih. If the surface is saqil, slippery, like that, it does not get purified with wiping. So if you wipe it, it's not sufficient. So if you have, for example, you have a surface top of your kitchen that is from marble, and it's very soft and it's very nice and it's just straightforward, but a najasa fall on it, right, or on the ground and it's tiles and things like this. According to this, right, if he did not pour water on it, and there was najasa and you just wiped it. There was, say for example, urine on the bathroom ground floor, according to what he mentioned here, and you just wiped it with a piece of cloth, and there's no urine anymore by just wiping it, not by putting water on the ground. He says all of that does not make it clean. ولا يطهر متنجس بشمس ولا ريح ولا دلك. Right? So this is what the madhab is. But one of the things that when we're reading the books of the fiqh and we understand the way that is being mentioned, when it says walau, that means gives the feeling that there's differences of opinions there. Because also there is within the madhab that these areas or these things, by if it's get purified by the sun or the wind or so on, there's another narration from Imam Ahmad that it becomes pure if it gets purified. If the najasa is removed, then it's clean. Especially with under the khuf or under the hida, under the slipper, the slipper or the shoes. If it, because there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that يطهره ما بعد. That means when he was asked about the clothing of a woman when she drags it behind her, and this can get into najasa on the ground, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, what comes after it purifies it. So that means what comes after it from the earth, by rubbing it on the earth. So, but we're studying the mas'ala here to understand it. So understanding the mas'ala here is it has to be done with water, or as long as it's removed with whatever means. This is basically the gist of it. So here, وَلَا يَطْهُرُ مُتَنَجِّسٌ, and we just need to make sure that we understand what is mentioned here. As far as what you're doing practically, we're studying the masail of the madhab. We're not talking about what's practically done by the fatwa of the ulama and the ikhtiyarat, the choices of the ulama and things like this. And I told you what it is. If it's purified, then it's inshallah sufficient. But here it says وَلَا يَطْهُرُ مُتَنَجِّسٌ وَلَوْ أَرْضًا بِشَمْسٍ وَلَا رِيحٍ وَلَا دَلْكٍ وَلَوْ أَسْفَلَ خُفٍّ أَوْ حِذَاءٍ أَوْ ذَيْلَ امْرَأَةٍ وَلَا صَقِيلٌ بِمَسْحٍ. The saqil, even if it's white, that's not sufficient because it has to be washed with water. Clear? Then after that, another thing, وَلَا يَطْهُرُ, the same thing, وَلَا يَطْهُرُ مُتَنَجِّسٌ وَلَا اسْتِحَالَةٍ. This is the famous mas'ala of al-istihala. Al-istihala is when something becomes completely transformed to something else, to another material, to another thing, completely different. So, and this is where he mentioned some of the cases here. Does it become then pure? So the najasa is transformed to something else. And this word al-istihala, this is always used when they talk about the things used for where they put in cheese, for example, or alcohol is used to cook something, but now it does not exist anymore, or having the enzymes and the like of that from something that is najis, but now it's not there anymore. It's just used as a catalyst, for example, and it does not exist afterwards. The final product does not have any of its ingredients, anything in it whatsoever that is najis. So this is where they call it al-istihala. Istihala, from something that becomes mustahil, something that can never be. Right? So, and comes from a tahawul, that means it's transformed completely. It's changed completely to be something else. So here, let's see the details. وَلَا يَطْهُرُ مُتَنَجِّسٌ بِاسْتِحَالَةٍ. According to the madhab here, the mutanajjis does not become purified by it changed to something else. For example, فَرَمَادُ النَّجَاسَةِ. Najasa has ramad, something najis that is burnt. Now the ashes of it, this is the ramad. Is the ashes of it najis or not? This is an example. وَغُبَارُهَا. Al-ghubar is the dust that comes from the najasa. وَبُخَارُهَا. Al-bukhar is what comes from boiling. something najis and it's boiled and the steam that comes from it. وَدُودُ جُرْحٍ. Jurh is wound. Dud is worms. Worms that came from wound. So the blood is najis, according to the madhab as we know. So if the worms that not coming from outside, no, within, got made from the wound itself. So that means it tawallad. That means it came from what's najis, what's impure. وصرصار وصراصر كنف. وصراصر كنف. Sarasir is the plural of صرصار or صرصور, which is the cockroach. Kunuf, al-kunuf is the place where people use to urinate or defecate, the bathroom basically. So the sursar, or the cockroach that is in the bathroom specifically, because it came from the najasa, from the impurities. And al-kanif is one, kunuf is the plural. Al-kanif is the place where a person enters to urinate or defecate. وكلب وقع في ملاحة صار ملحا. Dog fell in a ملاحة. ملاحة is the place where has salt in it, or it's completely salty, or as if you know how they make the salt, or you have a lake, for example, that is completely salt. صار ملحا, so the dog becomes salt. He fell into a ملاحة, a place where it is already salted, and he become the dog got decayed, that it become milh or salt, like the rest of the salt. وَنَحْوُ ذَلِكَ, and the like of this. He says all of these things are najis. All of it is impure. Why? Because it was impure and it's just transformed to something else. It doesn't matter. According to here, it doesn't matter. Why? Because it's originally was something that is impure. So he says, does al-istihala, when something is transformed to something else, لا تطهر المتنجس, does not purify the mutanajjis, or what has been najis or impure. So all of these things. So this is what he meant by that. So that means al-istihala does not purify something that is impure, except غير الخمرة. Except غير الخمرة. Al-khamra is the wine. إذا انقلبت بنفسها خلا. And this is a famous مسألة. Famous matter here is the issue of you have intoxicant, khamra, wine. إذا انقلبت بنفسها خلا. If it transformed, انقلبت, الانقلاب is when something becomes inverted or upside down or transformed. So something like wine, for example, changed completely by itself. And this is an important word here. بنفسها, not intentionally, not by someone's action. As we will see some of the details later. إذا انقلبت بنفسها. So someone has khamr, has wine, and it changed by itself, خلا, to become vinegar. So does the vinegar now is pure? If it changed by itself, yes. So this is an exception. So originally it was impure, and the majority of the ulama are in the opinion of the khamr is impure. So it changed by itself to be vinegar. Then it's pure in this case, because غير الخمر, غير, that means exception, except al-khamra, because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about that when he was asked alayhi salatu wasalam that al-khamr was changed by itself. He said it's pure, but if it changed by the action of someone, then it is not permissible and it stays impure. So إذا انقلبت بنفسها خلا أو بنقل لا لقصد تخليل, or نقل transported. They moved it from one place to the other, not with the intention of making takhlil. Takhlil here is to make something khal. Takhlil. As you know, the word takhlil, we took it in the wudu, takhlilul lihya, when you put your fingers into the beard. But here takhlil is the act of making khal. is the act of making vinegar. So transporting some intoxicant like wine, for example, moving it from one place to the other, not with the intention of making it khal for whatever other intentions, but then all of a sudden it got changed to vinegar. So does that mean what? That means it changed by itself, not intentional. وَدَنُّهَا مِثْلُهَا. دَنُّهَا. الدَّن is the pot that is specially used for khamra, for the intoxicants or for the wine, whether it's with haram intentions or the pots that they used for vinegar. So as you know that there's special pots. So this is dannuha. وَدَنُّهَا مِثْلُهَا. So the pots of the khamr has the same ruling as the liquid itself. So that means the pots, so if there's no khamra in it anymore, is the pot pure or not? So in the case of the khamra or the wine is in a pot, and as you see that if it's changed by itself to be vinegar, then it's pure by itself. And the danna and the pot also becomes pure, right? If it's changed by itself, it takes the same ruling. So we understand that from here before we go further, because it's going to be mentioned later, right afterwards, that if someone intentionally, like I see, if they intentionally change the khamr to be khall, to be vinegar, then it's impure. Then it's najis, because intentionally, they did it intentionally. And the danna of it and the part of it takes the same ruling, becomes impure also. So you see the difference here. All of that is because بنفسها or بغيرها, whether it's by itself or intentionally. So now we're still in the first case. If it changed by itself, then it's pure. It's an exception to al-istihala here. It's one of the forms of al-istihala. Something that was najis, transformed, changed to something that is pure, which is al-khal, which is vinegar. So the original ruling is al-istihala, which is everything is becomes najis. It does not get purified with al-istihala except the khamr, because of the hadith. He says لأن نجاستها لشدتها الأسكرة وقد زالت. So he's referring here to the danna, the pot, take the same ruling because the najasa, because of how intensity the najasa is, al-muskira, that causes intoxication, وقد زالت, and it has been removed. So the iskar has been removed. It becomes vinegar now, so it's not intoxicant anymore. As the same مسألة كالماء الكثير إذا زال تغيره بنفسه. Like the lots of water, and we talked about what constitutes al-kathir, if you remember. So al-ma' al-kathir over the qullatin, if it had najasa and it changed, but it changed by itself to be back to be pure. We made the differences as if you remember between al-ma' al-kathir and al-qalil in this. إذا زال تغيره بنفسه, by itself. والعلقة إذا صارت حيوانا طاهرة. العلقة is one of the stages of the formation of the embryo. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق الإنسان من علق. So one of which is one of the stages, if it's made of, if it's a clot of blood, if it becomes حيوان طاهر, a pure animal. So in one of its stages, it was impure, and then it becomes pure. So the issue of al-istihala changed to something else. So he says here, فَإِنْ خُلِّلَتْ. So we're still in the mas'ala of al-khamr, the mas'ala of the khamr. فَإِنْ خُلِّلَتْ. If the khamr becomes vinegar, here passive tense, that means it's been made something that they used intentionally, they used chemical means, whatever, to make vinegar from al-khamr. أو نقلت لقصد التخليل, or they removed it from one place to the other with the intention of making takhlil or making it vinegar. لم تطهر. Now the ruling here is لم تطهر, it does not become pure. It's not purified by the intentional making it as vinegar or by removing it with the intention to make it vinegar. Now since he mentioned the khal in the sharh, he says وَالْخَلُّ الْمُبَاح, the khal that is mubah. what is the pure khal, what is the permissible khal, what is the permissible vinegar. And this is an issue actually that requires some attention with regards to the vinegar that is sold in the market. Is it permissible or not? Is it pure or not? So والخل المباح, the permissible خل, أن يصب على العنب أو العصير خل قبل غليانه حتى لا يغلي. That the way to make the permissible vinegar is that you pour on the grapes or the juice خل, another vinegar, before it boils, so that it doesn't boil. Otherwise, it becomes impure or becomes intoxicant. This is according to the ways that it's done or used. So this is al-khal al-mubah, that you would pour on the inab, the grapes or the juice, another khal before it get boiled. Because once it get boiled, it takes it to the stage of al-iskar, or it makes it intoxicant. So al-ghalayan, or the boiling of the inab or the grapes or the juice, in that case, that means this is now, it's in the state of intoxication. Right? So this is that you put it before it get intoxicated. Before the grape or the grape juice becomes intoxicated, then you put the khal, you make the khal. If it's intoxicated, and so it's one of the stages of making vinegar, that it makes something that is intoxicant, and then it becomes khal, and all of that is intentional, of course. According to this here, it makes it impure because it was intentionally changed from intoxication to the ghal, or the khal, which is the vinegar. Right? So this is what is meant here. Al-khal al-mubah. ويمنع الخمرة لتخلل. ويمنع, he is to be prevented. غير خلال, other than خلال. Al-khallal is the man that is his profession is to make vinegar. This is the khallal, someone that he knows what he's doing, basically. So if someone that doesn't know what he's doing, he's not a vinegar guy, he's not someone that manufactures or makes vinegar, then he should be prevented. He should not be able to be. He should not be able to do it, because he can be easily make it impermissible. ويمنع غير خلال من إمساك الخمرة لتخلل. He is to be prevented from withholding, keeping the khamra, the intoxicant or the wine, for it to be changed to vinegar. Right? So why? Because he's not going to know what to do, so he might easily cause it to be impure or to make it intoxicant. So hopefully this is clear with the mas'ala of al-istihala. We need to understand the essence of it, so that we understand what al-istihala is. So this is the issue of al-istihala, something removed from one stage to one thing to the other. It becomes completely different material. It was najis and then it changed to something else. So according here to the madhab, all of it is still najis. It does not change to be pure, except al-khamra, except the wine or the intoxicant. If it removed by itself to something else, then it's pure, like the vinegar, for example. If it's done intentionally, then it stays to be impure. So this is a mas'ala with details for people to get to know, inshallah. Not sure if we should continue because of the many masail here. I will stop here, inshallah. Let's stop here, take it easy, so that you understand and review and study and make sure that everything is understood in the right way, inshallah. So this is what is, hopefully the goal here is to understand what is being mentioned, this issue of وَلَا يَطْهُرُ مُتَنَجِّسٌ بِشَمْسٍ and so on. And the other riwayah, that it's if it's al-istihala, if it's moved to something else, whether it's, okay, we talked about two things, whether it's mutanajjis and it's removed, the najasa is removed by other than water, and the second mas'ala is that al-istihala, when it's transformed to something else, and the exception is al-khamra, or the wine, when it changes to vinegar. Right, so this is where these matters are. طيب. stop here, inshallah. If you have any questions, please go ahead, inshallah. The attendance code is istihala. The attendance code is istihala. According to the madhab, would products like ketchup and mustard that contain manufactured vinegar also be considered najis? The issue of the khal, first of all, is the khal, the vinegar, should not have any intoxicants in it whatsoever. It should not have any khamra that is still present in it. This is a very important issue. And then, so if it's because of what's present already, right? And as if it's intentionally to be is used as a catalyst, the alcohol, for it to be changed to vinegar, according to here is the madhab and others, of course, that it is not permissible to be used. This is the ruling. I'm not sure details of what's, this is something that needs to be referred to the people of knowledge and the details of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But this is what the mas'ala is. So if they have or they use manufactured vinegar, and the manufactured vinegar, that means it's used as a way, because sometimes they use it and without using any alcohol. But if they use alcohol in one of the stages of manufacturing it, and one of these stages is intoxicant, according to the method, that's not permissible. If a product like cheese has enzymes in the ingredients, and I'm unsure if it's from animal, is it best to avoid it? That's a different situation here, and it's a detailed subject, of course. And if it's the enzyme is from something that is impure, then it's impure. But if it's transformed to something else, then it's pure and it's not najis. If it's transformed completely. So things can be different from different places. Wallahu a'lam. And it's part of when people live in the West, for example, then they have to be patient with some of these matters because of what's the norm of the people versus an exceptional situations. Wallahu a'lam. If we consider vanilla extract khamr because it could be consumed for intoxication, then does vanilla ice cream also come najis because it contains enough to change the flavor? Allah knows best. Allahu a'lam. So I would refrain from giving fatwas on these matters, and we can go into details of we looked into it before, but we can have it in a different setting, inshallah. Is the vastly available vinegar produced is in principle way? Again, this is something that what's in the market, what's out there, is we take this and we apply it. How they manufacture it, how it's done, it can be different from one place to the other. Now, again, in different places, sold in different places, that needs to be looked into. Every manufacturing, how they use it, how they do it. So if it's done with intoxications intentionally, then it's to be avoided. So Allah knows best. Someone had researched it and saw how they exactly do it. Then it's to be given the ruling, not to give an overall ruling based on not knowing exactly how they do it. What does it mean in the last line من إمساك الخمرة? نعم. If someone is not a professional khallal, someone that his job is not to make vinegar, then he should be prevented from withholding with him wine, for example, to make it vinegar, because he might not be able to know what he's doing. That's imsak al-khamra, to have it with him, meaning wine. Again, vinegar, Allahu a'lam, what type of vinegar and what type of things now. Maybe we can look into, this is a different setting. This is the fatwa, because if some companies might have been doing it in different ways versus other companies. Allah knows best. according to the madhab, a najasa on the earth or not on the earth must be removed with water. All the najasa has to be removed with water. Now, a woman's abaya that may have dragged over a najasa can be prayed with as long as what came after it was clean. Yes, as long as she's walking on the ground, then what comes after that will clean it, as the Prophet ﷺ said. He mentioned that the only way to study fiqh properly is through a madhab. What is your advice regarding books by scholars like Imam al-Albani regarding salah, hijab, or other fiqh topics? Imam al-Albani is an Imam mujtahid. He is someone that is in the level of al-ijtihad, and if someone follows Sheikh al-Albani rahimahullah, he's doing good. This is someone that wants to do things in a practical way to follow his opinions, sure, no problem, but without being prejudiced or to look at that as this is the way of the Sunnah, and other than the statements or the opinions of Imam al-Albani rahimahullah is not from the Sunnah. This is where the problem is. If someone does this, he's following Imam Sheikh al-Albani rahimahullah, which is perfect, mashallah. Sheikh al-Albani rahimahullah, even he stated that he does not take an opinion unless he has salaf. He has someone before him that adopted that opinion. And the ways of the books of the Sheikh rahimahullah, he would give you the evidence. Where the other ulama, like for example, the books when we're studying, you don't see many of the evidences in this stage because we're in the process of learning. We're not in the final process. We're in the process of learning fiqh. And for the person to be patient in learning fiqh. But when it comes to what to do as like the questions, what to do with the vinegar and so on, this is a different way of things. This is not in the, we can talk about it, yes, inshallah, and based also of what we studied. But as we said, the vinegar in the market, if you talk about it, for example, in some other parts of the world, it's halal to be used because they do it in the right way. If it's a different part of the world, how the process of doing vinegar, that has to be made clear before the ruling comes in place. Now, wine vinegar, if it's made from wine first, and the first stage was wine, and the wine is wine intoxicant, and they make it vinegar intentionally, the hadith is very clear about this, then it's not permissible to use. Now, and this is, the Prophet ﷺ, the hadith in Sahih Muslim, the hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet ﷺ was asked about al-khamr, tuttakhadu khallan. Al-khamr is used as vinegar. He says no. And the man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he had some khamr, wine. When the khamr was made haram, he said, Ya Rasulullah, asna'uha khallan. He had khamr. The Prophet ﷺ, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, can I make it vinegar? Can I change it to vinegar? He says, لا. قال لا فصبها حتى سال الوادي. The man had so much khamr that he poured it till the valley flooded with his khamr. And the Prophet ﷺ told him not to change it to vinegar. So, and that's very clearly stated that. But unless it's changed by itself, and he was asked about that, alayhi salatu wasalam, if it changed by itself, then it's permissible in this case. You might hear from someone is saying that it's saying otherwise. This is the majority of the ulama upon this. Some of the ahnaf, they say that it's permissible. So it depends on what a person follows in this case. Now, is my understanding correct of the mas'ala? If the grapes are boiled with mixing with khal, then this follows the ruling of khamr. Yes, when they make the process of making vinegar, and again, this is a very primitive, this is just a generic or a way of saying it. When the process of making vinegar, if they add the vinegar on the grapes or on the juice before it boils, then it's good. If after it boiled, then it's not good, because after it boiled, it make it muskir. So again, we're not concerned about the boiling, right? We're concerned what's the root of the mas'ala is the intoxication, right? So if it's muskir, if the grapes becomes muskir, if the grapes becomes intoxicant, right? Then this intoxicant, it cannot be changed to vinegar by us doing something to it, right? Because as the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, changed by itself, that means it's left in a place and it just changed to be vinegar, right? Time, it takes time for it to be changed to vinegar, not intentionally, not physically doing it. No. And again, this is the mashhur, what is known to be in the madhab, that it does not becomes pure, right? And some of the ulama, they said it becomes pure and it's permissible, even though the action is haram. I'm just saying now, since we hopefully we understand the mas'ala, when it comes to the some of the practical issues here, because of the differences of opinions among the ulama. So the two opinions here is, as you see, the mashhur, what's established in the madhab, that it does not become pure if it's done by intentionally. The other opinion, that if it's done intentionally, it's haram, and the Prophet ﷺ said for it not to be used. But the final product, according to the other opinion, that it's pure. There's nothing intoxicant in it, so it becomes permissible to be used, right? So, and this is as the fatwa of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah and others, when he said that when it comes from other than the Muslimin, like from the Jews and the Christians, they made the vinegar in a way that they believe that it's permissible or it's okay, and it's the final product that it's not intoxicant. So so there's issues here, whether it becomes pure or not. So Allah knows best. No. So you see here the point here. Some said if it's a Muslim, it's not permissible. But if it's from the people of the book, it's permissible, because to them they didn't do anything wrong according to them, if it's changed to vinegar. So this is some of the interesting things and the difference of opinions in the matter. Allahu A'lam. If is the understanding correct of masala, if the grapes are boiled with mixing with khal, then this is follows the ruling of this. No. No, this is with the rulings of what intoxicates. So if if the fruits becomes intoxicant, once it reaches the state of al-iskar, then this is the ruling apply here, right? So the essence of the mas'ala again, making vinegar from something that is intoxicant. If it changed to vinegar by itself, without human intervention, without anyone doing anything, then it's pure. If it's with human intervention, they're making vinegar that way. And one of the stages of making vinegar, that the liquid becomes intoxicant first, and then it changes to vinegar. Then, according to what's the madhab and majority of the ulama, that it's not permissible because of the hadith, and the issue whether it's najis or not. This is where the issue here. Now, so now, if someone wants to search, not to make it difficult for anyone, but if someone wants to search how the major companies, they do vinegar, what's the process? So we can then see and apply the mas'ala here, inshallah. Okay, inshallah. Barakallah fikum. Maybe someone can inform us after researching what's the process that they use to make vinegar, inshallah. The major companies. I don't want to mention the names. Barakallah fikum. طيب, we'll stop here, inshallah, and we'll discuss next time. And if someone comes up with the research that they did, according to what they said, without mentioning names of companies, because if you mention the name of the company, that means You already investigated and you're making a fatwa, right? But if you research, right, find the process, and if they say this is the process, for us to be say we're not muftis here. So when you get the process and the process is mentioned, then we say according to what we studied and according to even some of the contemporary opinions, or which is based on other opinions originally from the ulama. Clear, inshallah? Because we don't want to be making, there's a fatwa now is made in Heinz or made in for regards to this company. That needs to be worked more on the process of understanding and exactly what these companies do, right? So hopefully it's clear, inshallah. طيب. بارك الله فيكم, and we continue inshallah ta'ala next time. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.